Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. So, I just want to try to quickly provide some update to what's going on in Israel. After the ceremony yesterday, where the United States is moving its embassy to Jerusalem, and actually yesterday was just a ceremony. As I understand it, the structure won't actually be built for like 9 or 10 years. So, but it's still significant, and the protests that took place in Gaza, and I think some in the West Bank, but I think it was primarily Gaza where the violence was, and some of the reaction to it today. So, and obviously there's different opinions on it. I mean, I've said before that I'm fairly pro-Israel, which I am, but I would say that yesterday was, and this is, Israel often is very heavy-handed, and it's the way it deals with conflict with people that oppose, them. And they were yesterday too, no question about it. And there's the debate of whether or not they have the right to defend themselves. Of course they do, but I just don't know that the force that was used yesterday, killing, there was 58 people that were killed. Just the numbers too, the number of people that were killed was really necessary. I mean, I seriously doubt that it was. And there's other times, there is. So, but, that doesn't, I still basically am pro-Israel. Just, by being pro-Israel doesn't mean every single situation I agree with, I try to be fair and honest with myself. And I think a lot of people are like that. I really do. I think there's probably a lot of people that would probably consider themselves pro-Israel, but in any given situation, they would think that was wrong, or the way they dealt with this was too much. I think I'm going to be very quick, that like the Lebanon War in 2006, if you could even call it that, a bombing campaign by Israel in response to the sort of the incursion, the cross-border, where the Israeli soldier was kidnapped and I think another one was killed. And then they for several days bombed. I guess it was Beirut. I'm not even sure. And it was Hezbollah versus Israel, but the it was just completely one-sided. And a lot of times these things, I agree. Israel just does too much. So, and there's lots of things behind that. I'm sure the defense industry loves it, and there's some of that going on as well. But not yesterday. Yesterday was just, it was people were killed by sniper fire, as I understand it. I'll play some of the footage, and we'll go through some. I watched the coverage last night on Fox and other places online. This is here from Russian television. I would say that that's not necessarily pro-Israel, but in other places. But the coverage on Fox and many of the American politicians, I can see the difference, right? So, and the whole debate is over Jerusalem. I mean, I think here's West Jerusalem, East Jerusalem. I mean, for instance, most American politicians, when they speak of Jerusalem, they speak of it as one city, and they don't even make the distinction between West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem. And East Jerusalem, is Palestine, and this is the pre-1967 border from 1958. I mean, there's people like Hamas, which it's hopeless, believe that all of Jerusalem belongs to the Palestinians. But, we're never going back to that. It's done. I think what would be best, the best thing for everybody is if we went back to the pre-1967, borders, and all the lands that have been occupied or annexed by Israel will return to the people before the 1967 war, the Golan Heights. This has all been annexed, even though, as I understand it, Israel doesn't occupy the West Bank. Maybe they do. I might have that wrong. But they don't occupy Gaza. I know they've completely withdrawn from it, and that's part of their complaint yesterday, is that they're not in there. And basically these giant protests with 40,000 people potentially storming their border fence is very dangerous, and that's why they had to use lethal force. I agree that they didn't. It just wasn't necessary to kill 58 people, and there were 2,700 others injured. I think there's other ways to do that without killing so many people, in my opinion. And so, but back to what I was saying is, but these lands, whether it's like the Golan Heights, and I understand that that's Syria's land and that it's now been annexed and it's very valuable property, and there's many reasons why Israel wants that land after they seized it during the war. But they were attacked. Okay, it's not as if they took that on their own. They were under attack by all the surrounding nations: Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt. There's so much to talk about, and I just, I'm just saying, I'd be just fine with us going back to the pre-1967 line. I think that would be good for everybody, and actually, I think it would be a good gesture for Israel to give up lands that it had, taken during that war, and even though, like I said, I mean, when you're attacked during a war, it's not like you get a do-over and you have to give everything back when you win. I mean, that's how war works, dude. One last point before I move on. Every nation in the world, I mean, do you think the entire, how many countries are there in the entire world, in the planet, okay? It's not as though God drew the lines of every country, Lands, all countries are formed by taking land from somebody else. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying this focus, this obsession with Israel, to me, I'm a little suspicious of it, And that's why I speak up and say I'm in many respects pro-Israel. A freely elected people, by the way, Ethno-state's another thing, which is maybe true, but we're talking about 6 million Jewish people, okay? I mean, that was the whole idea, the reason they formed Israel in the first place, But if you look, I mean, the entire Middle East is one giant ethno-state. Every country in the Middle East is basically vastly majority Muslim. And it's not to the extent that Israel is, but the numbers are so much larger. How many people are in the Middle East? And there's 80 million people in Iran. I just happen to know that one off the top of my head. I think Iraq is 60 million. And all these countries, they're almost exclusively Muslim. So, that's just fine by me. I don't care. I'm just saying people that are complaining that Israel is an ethno-state, I think that's a pretty ridiculous argument when it's surrounded by countries that are absolutely mammoth in size and numbers of population to them that are basically fully, almost, pretty majority-wise Muslim. All right. Man. Haven't shown a single thing. I'm just saying, dude, this is some counterbalance to some of the stuff that I'm hearing on YouTube, and I watch a fair amount of it. Some people I like to watch, and I disagree with. Others I disagree with a lot, And I think, I think somebody needs to say a different opinion, And that's what I'm doing. Freedom of speech. And this is my freedom of speech. I get to speak up, All right. All righty. So there was 58 killed. That's the number I seen. 2,700 wounded, and there's tons of different footage. I have seen footage of snipers, and there's a little bit of fire in some of these clips, none where you specifically see people being gunned down, but I have seen them. I saw the footage from The Guardian. I've been watching Lift the Veil quite a bit. He played some of it at the end of his most recent video on this, where he's talking about QAnon and stuff. And and I'll play some of that. But I don't know. Where do I start? Let me just play a little bit and show you some of the pictures. And I don't know, man. This video, just you hear gunfire, you can clearly hear it, and everybody scatters. And there's a couple others that I'll play just as fast as I can. But I will say that if you just see the videos of, the pictures of the tires burning in the slingshots and the rocks, and you can clearly see one side that basically has almost nothing, in terms of the fight with, and another side that has probably some of the most sophisticated weapons in the world, and it's just one of the toughest militaries. So the lopsided nature of it, it's just pretty much undeniable, and that's why I think the deaths were unnecessary, in my opinion. The concern is, in fact, one of these videos here, which I'll play for a second, is that they were going to break the barrier and storm into Israel, invade through their borders. And the numbers that were there yesterday, 50,000 protesters, it just could have gotten very bloody had that happened. So that's what they're preventing. But again, I just don't know that the number of deaths was really necessary. I doubt it was. So let me play this one first up here, and then the other one, and a couple other things. Nikki Haley at the UN, she made a few comments, and we'll play that. Okay, so you can clearly hear the gunfire there. And this video, I haven't even watched it in full. It's just a few, it's a very short clip. But supposedly it says there that it captures footage of attempts to plant explosive device on Gaza border. Right there. They have some kind of long thing, and right, so there's that, and it shows here another thing, I think, with cites.
Very, very tough days.
That was local journalist Hind Kadari. Well, as she said, Palestinians have also recently started to resort to a new form of violent protest, attaching firebombs to kites and then flying them over the border fence into Israeli-held territory. The Israeli Defense Forces stated that they will continue to operate against the protest.
I only play that to illustrate, and like you've seen me say in previous videos that I'm pro-Israel, that there's just not much threat there, in my opinion, from the Palestinians, and that it's sort of a joke, in terms of their capabilities. They have none, and that's not they're capable of killing, but it's just I don't know. I think you get what I mean. Okay, so. How did, basically 58 Palestinians were killed, 2,700 were wounded, 2 further deaths were reported on Tuesday, so things have calmed down reportedly. I think there were protests in the West Bank and as well as Gaza, because this happened in Gaza, which is on the other, well, that's where Hamas is, and that's away from where Jerusalem was. So, Monday was the anniversary of the creation of Israel, while Tuesday marks the day Palestinians call Nakba, or catastrophe, which commemorates the more than 700,000 Palestinians who fled or were expelled from their homes following its foundation, the creation of Israel, I believe. So, and how did the world react? It's in here as well. Speaking at the UN, U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley defended the level of Israel's use of force, saying no country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has. She said, the U.S. deplores the loss of human life, but laid blame on Hamas, saying, make no mistake, Hamas is pleased with the results from yesterday. I believe that's true, even though I don't necessarily buy everything that she's saying, that this is the result that Hamas want, and that a lot of it was orchestrated by them. It's still, I just don't know that the deadly force was necessary, in my opinion. So, and I'll play her clip where she says that, and a couple other things. Germany, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Belgium all called for an independent inquiry. UK Ambassador Karen Price said the volume of live fire used in Gaza yesterday and the consequent number of deaths is distressing and cannot be ignored by the Council. Ireland summoned the Israeli ambassador to express its shock. Turkey told Israel's ambassador to temporarily leave. Israel did the same to Turkish consul in Jerusalem. French President Emmanuel Macron told Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a telephone call that civilians had the right to protest peacefully. Nikki Haley over at the UN, let me just play her comment real quick.
When asked yesterday why he put a swastika on his burning kite, the terrorist responded, quote, the Jews go crazy when you mention Hitler, unquote. Would accept this type of activity on your border? No one would. No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has.
Okay, so there's the response to the United States. Obviously, I'm American. I'm very pro-American, pro-Israel. But again, I think yesterday was unnecessary. I think I belabored that point. And that first statement, though, that just kind of shows. I'd say that's a reach. That just shows if you're reaching into that bag, pulling out the swastika Hitler bag, thing, that if that's the best you have to explain why that it was, it just tells you right there. Done deal. In my opinion. I mean, in terms of why it was too much, man. Too much, dude. Too much, dude. All right. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.